The warfare thesis suggests that there has been a historical conflict between science and religion, and basically a never-ending ideological war to determine truth. Modern scientists are all for this view, but historians of science, not so much. And that's because there are plenty of scientists throughout history, plenty of the greatest scientists that have ever existed, that were religious, that were Christians, and a lot of times their religious belief drove them to strive for scientific advancement. There have been plenty of times where people have come up with scientific conclusions based on premises accepted about religion. Isaac Newton, Galileo, Pascal, Robert Boyle, Copernicus, Kepler, Francis Bacon, these are all some of the greatest scientists who have ever lived that were religious. And those are just the most famous ones. Look, the evolution debate is not about bashing science or trying to destroy education or trying to move away from knowledge. The warfare thesis is wrong because it's not about religion versus science. They're religious people that have been scientists and have done great at it. Religion engages with certain scientific assumptions and interpretive theories, but they don't throw out science altogether. In fact, if you click the link up here, you can go and watch my video about the difference between science and scientific interpretations, and why that's important for exercising critical thinking. Okay, let's be clear. I would be highly surprised to die, go to heaven, and then find out that evolution is actually true, as secular scientists represent it. But it could happen. There are plenty of Christians that agree with evolution. I don't agree with them, but it's open for debate. But evolution is probably the #1 excuse for not believing in God, especially in the secular Western world that we live in. There are scientific scholars that are also religious that have different interpretations about the issue. Here's the problem that I take with evolution. When something like evolution just steps in and shuts off the conversation from happening, that's when I take an issue to it. I think it's a problem when ideas step in and they just stop critical thinking from happening altogether and just halt any discussion from happening whatsoever. If someone openly doesn't want to change their lifestyle or change the way they think, or just really doesn't want to believe in religion, I can't do much about that. But critically engaging with ideas and coming to an understanding comprehensively of what somebody believes, what certain worldviews believe, as they represent it, without misrepresenting it altogether, that, I think, is where critical thinking begins to take place, and I think it's something that everybody should exercise. The conversation needs to open up so that we can actually exercise critical thinking, instead of just talking about how great it is. And evolution doesn't have to stop the conversation from happening, but it does, and that's why I engage with it. That's why I think the evolution debate is important. And critics aren't wrong about Christians needing to be more critical about what they believe, but so do they. And I understand that I can't convince everyone to believe in Christianity, and I don't think I should. But I do believe that at the point where the conversation isn't happening, that's where I think it's necessary to engage with the idea. Okay, here's the point of this video, what this video is starting. My idea for what I want for this channel is, instead of when people hear on the news or on the internet or something, they hear some headline that says something like, "Scientists have discovered that the first living cell started in groundwater." Instead of automatically just accepting that interpretation as true, I want people to be able to exercise the critical thinking to be able to engage with why they came to that interpretation. I want people to be able to consider what evidences that they're using to come to that conclusion, what alternative interpretations could come to, and whether or not that's the only interpretation that could happen, which is never the case. I want people to step outside of that idea and take a look at the assumptions, the evidence, and all of the other possibilities that come from what has been found, and analyze whether or not they believe that that interpretation is a good enough one for us to pursue looking in. And that goes for the same for people that say things like, such and such has been disproven. Instead of just saying, okay, they say that this is disproven, so I'm going to accept that as truth. They need to take a closer look at the evidence and whether or not that actually directly links to the premises of this other idea. That was a little confusing. But the same attitude applies. What I mean is, when somebody says something, just because you trust their idea, I don't want you to just accept it as true. I want you to go through the same line of reasoning that they took and see if you can come up with other ideas. I want you to be critical of the idea. I know that there are plenty of other worldviews out there, that in the marketplace of worldviews, that need to be engaged with and we should very much be aware of. But in terms of relevancy, the evolutionary scientific worldview is something that is most relevant in Western culture. So this video is sort of an introduction of the way that I intend to do videos in the future. I have some connections with some organizations that I'm not going to name yet because I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say or what rights that I have to name drop anybody, but I have some connections with people that I'm working with that are PhD scientists and mathematicians and scholars, and they have different interpretive theories about different topics. And I'm hoping to do videos about how those evidences, those ideas, those conclusions, how they can be pit up against the modern evolutionary ideas that we see, and how we can determine how they compare. And if you already can think of somebody in mind, or if you yourself are somebody that's already thinking, well, they don't compare, so there's no point in looking into it. That's the attitude that I'm trying to change with this channel. I want to be able to engage with people and show them that we have something intelligent to say. So this video is an introduction on videos that I want to do in the future about engaging with evolutionary ideas and explaining how there are different interpretations that actually pit up against these ideas. And there are criticisms of evolution that I find a lot of times evolutionists aren't even aware of. I want everybody to be critical of each other's worldviews. I want everybody to be critical of their own worldviews. And I want to inspire discussion about these topics. I want people to engage with it. Whether or not you believe that these ideas are true, whether you think creationism is absolute crap, what I'm trying to change here is the idea that we need to just shut out these ideas altogether. Whether or not you agree with my position, or you are, somewhere else on the spectrum, I'm sure you can respect the idea that we need to engage in these conversations, or conversations like this. I'm sure you can respect the idea that critical thinking is something we need to exercise, and talking about it, engaging in debates, and being able to evaluate the evidences and arguments in front of us is something that everybody should be able to exercise. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel and with these series of videos that I'm doing on evolution. So, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for arguing with me, and I'll see you on the next one.